before, if you take $1, you could give your kid $1 and they're able to buy, cookie, a bag of chips, and maybe a fruit punch. That's pretty good for $1. Right now, you could get a fruit punch. And this was only 2 years ago. A fruit punch that we sell at 35 cents is now 69 cents. That's double. That's hyper-inflated. And people don't realize it because it's such at a low level. All the basic things, that's candies, foods, those real small 25-cent things, those are all doubled in price already. Why isn't people realizing that? Look at what happened to the price of rice. As a Korean, I don't shop for rice, but a lot of ladies do. They didn't really realize why that bag of rice from $5 went to 19. Brazil said we're not going to take no more dollars for rice. We'd rather eat it on our own because our economy is growing. And from just Brazil stopping their exports to the U.S., bags of rice went from $5 to $15 overnight.
Already, I said I was trying to buy a young coconut. They were $1.19 4 months ago. I went to buy a young coconut. It was $1.69. 40-50% inflation in months. People on the ground all over America are noticing the price of bread and eggs and things going up. So there's inflation in what's important, which is food. So if that's the case, it'd be better to switch those dollars for food right now than not to do so.
We're going to see, seriously, victory gardens popping up all over LA and Southern California. Especially Southern California, because you know what? Next year, it's going to be horrible for foods. I mean, horrible in a sense that it can be so inflated. Because, California this year, the fall harvest was wiped out. There's nothing in California. Where's the avocados? Where's the apples? Where's the pears? There's none.
The inventories of agricultural products are the lowest they've been in decades. Not years, Bernie, but in decades. And we're going to have more problems. There are going to be periods when people cannot get food at any price. And this has not happened in our lifetimes.
Last year, the farmers couldn't get loans for fertilizers. They had to shut down counties and counties and counties because of the water issue. There's colony collapse disorder where there's no bees in California. They've been having to import bees from Arizona, and that's not even covering even 10% of the pollination. So we're going to see a huge food shortage come next year. You're going to see hyperinflation big time.
When the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come!" I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come!" I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the four living creatures saying,
2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages.
In our modern age, we don't like to consider the reality of hell. It's uncomfortable for us. All of us it is, because we know that there is a danger of each one of us. There is a danger for each one of us to fall into that place if we find ourselves in the state of mortal sin and then meet death and judgment in that condition. And so we're not comfortable when we hear about it. We don't want to hear about the reality of the tortures of this place. Our Lady of Fatima showed a 7-year-old girl the fires of hell. He brought a 7-year-old girl named Jacinta. She brought her into hell. And she showed Jacinta the souls burning there. Today, as one of our priests pointed out about 15 years ago, she would be accused of, the Blessed Virgin Mary would be accused of child abuse. Showing a little girl hell. But she did. And Jacinta, after that vision of hell, was so affected by it that she devoted all the remainder of her short life to praying that souls not go there. That's what she devoted the rest of her life to, after seeing the souls burning in hell at the age of 5, at the age of 7. We shouldn't be saying these things to the young, and yet we bring our young to movies that are bad for them. The Blessed Virgin showed the young these things. Perhaps those that think we shouldn't be saying these things in the presence of the young, maybe it's because of a guilty conscience. And that we realize that if we soon pass to death, maybe we will not be ready to meet our God. But He shall come, and He is present in hell. So says sacred Scripture. I shall bring the sword, and I shall spend my arrows amongst them. And my breath shall be as a torrent of fire, says the Book of Wisdom, breathing fire and brimstone upon the damned. God is present as fire and brimstone. He's present swinging His sword. He's present shooting His arrows amongst the damned. And note that each of these passages refers not only to the torture of hell, but to its eternity. I will spend my arrows amongst them. When does God run out of arrows? I will make my sword drunk with blood. Will there ever be enough blood to satisfy His sword? And the answer is no. And it is also said here in the book of Deuteronomy for the first time in sacred Scripture, but it is repeated many other times. As he gets to the end of this consideration, speaking from the voice of God about what God is going to do to the damned, he says, remember, vengeance is mine, and I shall repay them in due time. A little later on, Moses says in the sermon that God slays the damned in His own time because He has prepared a special vengeance. And He doesn't simply kill them after their first sin necessarily, though He does some. But He waits because of the infinite wrath of His justice. Just as His mercy is infinite to those that beg forgiveness before death, so His wrath is infinite towards those that do not. And He is preparing a special torture, says Moses.
Did you know that despite the modern notion of many people today that there is no hell, the Bible speaks of it over 113 times? Jesus Himself, love incarnate, spoke more about hell than He did about heaven. Why? To warn people, and because of just how horrible it will be for those who go there. Hell will be unlimited in intensity. Imagine the pain of a third-degree burn victim. That pain is limited. The pain of hell will be unlimited. Hell will be unrestrained in the attack of men and demons. Here on earth, God restrains their attack on people. Otherwise, we'd all fall prey to the Charles Mansons and Jeffrey Dahmers of the world. In hell, there will be no such restraint. People will be under the unrestrained fury of other wicked men and demons for all of eternity. Hell will be uninterrupted in its misery. A human being who suffers on earth from a painful wound or sickness can sleep, or faint, or find temporary relief in medication. There will be no such reprieve in hell. Hell will be unending, forever. What depth of depression, rage, hopelessness, and sheer horror must the soul sink into, knowing that after 1 billion years they are no closer to relief? Hell will be utter darkness, no light, no love, ever again.